Now I'd like to call up the candidates for U.S. House, Elisabeth Motsinger and Virginia Fox.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Jordan Billings. I'm an 8th grader at Sparta School. My question tonight is, what do you feel is best approach to help bring jobs into North Carolina?
Would you like to begin?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll begin. I think one of the difficulties that has happened is that we have confused in the United States small business and big business. And we have had a lot of tax support and money support for very large businesses while calling them small businesses. Agricultural support, for example, goes to these giant agribusinesses and not to small local farmers. Ideally, things like school lunch programs should be buying food from local farmers instead of commodities. We should be looking at real tax incentives for small businesses where people are invested in the community, where they care about where they live. A lot of the businesses that look like they're local aren't local, and there's a big difference. I think America actually does best when small businesses are supported, because I think that's the real economic engine of our community. I also think we need to have tariffs for imports. I think we have to stop supporting businesses that send labor offshore and then import back. We have to come up with national policies that are really focused on keeping jobs here at home, and there has to be consequences to the businesses that send those jobs overseas.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you all for putting this on tonight. It's always fun to be here in Sparta for kids voting. The best thing that we can do to help bring jobs to the 5th District of North Carolina, to North Carolina, and to the United States is to reduce the corporate tax rate. Right now, the United States has the highest corporate tax rate of any developed country in the world. We are 10% higher than any other country. We also should look at the way that we regulate businesses in this country. We over-regulate businesses. The NFIB has said that it costs over $10,000 per employee in small businesses for unnecessary government regulations. So the two things that we could do that would help the most would be to lower the corporate tax rate and to reduce unnecessary rules and regulations. I agree that we need to improve education also, and I think we need more emphasis on skill building in this country and encouraging people to gain skills to make us more competitive.
Thank you.
Hello. Hey. Thank you for coming. My name is Jennifer Evans. I am in 11th grade at, not 11th grade, 10th grade at Alleghany High School.
Don't rush through.
I'm sorry. Anyways, my question is, what would be your first approach to decrease the government spending?
Go ahead,
No,
Elizabeth.
you go. I think we'll give you a chance. You've spent a lot of time talking about that.
First, I'd like to say we have a $16 trillion national debt. That debt is a burden not only to the people who are here, who are adults, who are paying taxes, but it's also a terrible burden for you and your children and your grandchildren. That debt is bigger than our entire economy right now. Our GDP is not quite as high as our national debt. What I think we should do to reduce spending at the federal level is to reduce the role of the federal government in areas that are not constitutionally mandated for the federal government to be involved in. The federal government is doing a lot of things that it has no business being involved in. The reason we have a federal government is to provide for the defense of this nation. And many things that we do, such as education and health care, can and should be done at the state and local level. There is no real reason for the federal government to be involved in many of the areas that it's involved in. If we devolve those programs to the state and local level, then we could eliminate the federal bureaucracy, which is very, very expensive, and those programs would be much more effective if they were controlled at the state and local level. So I would begin by looking at the enumerated powers in the Constitution and say, what should the federal government be doing? What is mandated for the federal government to do? And then devolve the programs that it should not be involved in to the states and the localities.
So my answer to your question is that I think dealing with the deficit is going to have to be at least a two-pronged approach. One is, of course, looking at what spending is not absolutely necessary, and the other is increasing tax rates on the wealthiest Americans. We have the lowest tax rate for the wealthiest Americans that we have had in 40 or 50 years. The Congressional Research Office, on looking over the last 65 years of tax policy, has said that lowering marginal tax rates, meaning as your income goes up, the higher portion you pay more on. So say you have $1 million, and then the next $1 million you pay a higher portion. There is no evidence that lowering that tax rate over 65 years has created jobs, has stimulated the economy, has had any impact, except there's one impact, and that's to increase income inequality, which it has done very, very well in the United States. So one of the first things I think we have to do is actually raise tax rates, the marginal tax rates, on the very wealthy, because they are walking away with the farm. And it's not right. In terms of Mrs. Fox's feeling about constitutional, what was enumerated, Thomas Jefferson said, as a government grows up, of course it will change and grow in the same way that you would not wear the same coat as an adult that you wore as a child. So health care was an irrelevancy at the time of the Constitution because there was no health care. If you got a devastating injury or illness, you died of it. And certainly it's a wonderful thing over the last 50 years that people now have an expanded life expectancy and quality of life. So I am a healthcare provider. I'm a physician assistant. I very much support healthcare.
Time.
Thank you.
Hello, candidates. My name is Lillian. And my question for you is, what is your stand regarding Obama's care?
Obamacare as health care?
Yeah.
Okay. I am a physician assistant. I've been practicing medicine since 1989, and I continue to practice medicine even during my campaign. I am working 2 days a week, partly because I care very much about my patients. In all the years that I've practiced medicine, have never met somebody who I did not believe deserved good, decent health care. But I have seen many of my patients who are unable to access that good, decent health care. I watch my patients who lose their job and they sit in the office trembling, just trembling with terror. What will I do? I have diabetes. I can't get my medicine. How can I do that? And I try to come up with a patchwork of patient assistance programs and drug samples and how can we figure this out. But they're really in a terrible situation. One of the problems in our country and our healthcare system is people hit Medicare having often had years without good health care, so their problems are much more complicated than they would have been had they been getting adequate care all along. I have never met a person who I don't believe deserves basic health care. And so I support the move towards health care for all Americans. And I hope that we can make it an even stronger system so that there is no child, no older person, nobody who is an American who goes without health care.
Of course, all of us want all Americans to have access to health care and to have the best health care that they can possibly have. However, the stated goal of Obamacare was to bring down the cost of health care, to bring down the cost of health insurance. It has worked just the opposite. Insurance costs have gone up. The president promised that premiums would go down $2,500 a year for the average family. If Obamacare was passed, insurance premiums have gone up approximately $2,400 for the average family since Obamacare was passed. Health care costs have not come down. Insurance costs have not come down. The Obamacare took $716 billion out of Medicare in order to set up other programs. So it hurts seniors. It weakens Medicare. Medicare is on its way to going broke. It will cause Medicare to be insolvent even sooner than we knew it was going to be insolvent. Republicans have proposed much better ways to take care of the health care needs of the people in this country. We have voted many times to repeal Obamacare, and I would like very much to see it repealed, because again, I think that it can be handled at the state level and at the local level, and that we can have better care, more effective care, more affordable care if you don't have the federal government controlling what happens with health care. There is a 15-member unelected group of bureaucrats that will make decisions on whether or not people get health care, and that is very un-American.